Wendy is with us in studio this afternoon, and we are bringing you the promised follow-up on the luxury upgrade to Virgin Active's Greenpoint Club and how that is impacting members who were locked into existing contracts. So that's going to be our main focus. I hope we might have time for some open line calls a little bit later in the hour as well. So if you'd like to raise a new issue that is consumer related, or if you would like to comment on the Virgin Active story, remember you can either phone in on 021 446 0567 or send a WhatsApp to 072 567 1567. Great to have you back with us, Wendy.
Thanks so much, Pippa.
It was before the Christmas break, well before the Christmas break, that we first talked about this. So I think we must just recap fairly substantially before we share any updates and feedback from Virgin Active. So if I can just start with some context here. Firstly, for those who don't know, the Point Club that we're talking about is the one in Greenpoint, adjacent to the tennis courts near the Greenpoint Urban Park. That, if you're trying to locate it geographically, is where we are. I actually used to be a member there, Wendy. I remember it back in the early 2000s. But I know the club today looks nothing like the one I used to go and swim at then. And it was closed for quite some time last year while a major refurbishment took place. And it's the cost of the fancy new version, which has some of the long-standing members upset and some of the newer members as well. I mean, Wendy, there's no denying it is now a very beautiful, upgraded facility. Or I'm not sure if it's entirely finished yet, but what is being created is something very luxurious.
Yes, they're calling it the Country Club. It's the first and what will be several others in their portfolio. And yes, lots of new and improved facilities. Here is how Virgin Active sold the concept to its existing members. Virgin Active Point is transforming into South Africa's first collection country club, a new kind of space where wellness meets lifestyle and luxury meets community. This isn't just a refurbishment, it's a reimagining, it's a reinvention, it's revolutionary. Your club is about to be a place where you train hard, recover fully, connect deeply, and live well, all under one roof. That's a triumph of marketing if ever I read.
And we spoke previously about what that, I mean, it's everything from ice baths and fancy swimming facilities and paddle courts and shared wellness spaces and workspaces, etc., etc. So, I mean, lots of beautiful features, and for some people those are going to be very desirable features. Make no mistake, there is a market for that. But Wendy, the crux of the matter for this conversation today is that those very fancy new facilities come at a very fancy new price point for members. And what has happened is that several of them contacted us last year complaining not just about the price hikes per se, but about the way they were communicated and what they've described, some of them, as a lack of care for the existing members' wants and needs. So what we're going to do today is just look at a couple of the case studies which raise the various and represent the various issues that were raised with us by several different listeners. And then Virgin Active's Chief Operating Officer, Derek du Preez, is listening into all of this and will respond later to these complaints and to the company's position and the way forward. Let's start with the cost issue. I mean, in the first case, Wendy, a member's fees for her daughter using this gym actually quadrupled. Let's start there. Tell us about Jenna's case.
Okay, so Jenna signed up her children who are 15 and 17. Her daughter was already on a month-to-month contract. That means you can cancel with a month's notice with no penalty. And at the gym, when she signed up her son in September of last year, opting for a single club membership, which cost 420 Rand a month. Just 6 weeks later, and this is the point, because it wasn't discussed or disclosed to her, she received an email informing her of the changes at the gym and offering her the option to take up one of the so-called founder membership offers at, let's call it 1,800 Rand a month. So that's the quadrupling we're speaking of. This was open until the end of December, and similar offers made to all existing members, and included the extra benefit of a free paddle for a year.
Okay, so just to be clear, the offer was made as you can come on board as a founding member of the new improved gym, but this wasn't a sort of a nice-to-have extra benefit kind of offer, Wendy. There wasn't really an out.
There wasn't an out. There wasn't a, well, okay, you can keep using just the facilities that you've been using and none of the fancy ones until your contract expires. You pay 1,800 a month or that's that.
That's the only option.
And the actual thing is then if you cancel, then the 40% of remaining months in your contract comes in as the cancellation penalty.
So this is the choice Jenna faced when she contacted us, that either you accept this founder member package with an increase from 420 to 1,800 Rand a month, or you can, if you don't like it, cancel the contract you've got. But if you cancel the contract you've got, you're liable for a 40% cancellation fee on the entire contract. Now, bearing in mind, she had only signed that contract 6 weeks earlier in September.
That's the main issue.
Why she was so furious.
Yes, she says they would have known about the increase of fees and the fact that the Point was becoming a country club at least 6 to 8 months before. I mean, it was way beyond concept phase. And this wouldn't have been a decision taken overnight, she says. It took me more than 3 weeks and about 20 emails and 15 calls to them myself to try and resolve this. In the end, she says, I had to cancel both contracts and refuse to pay out of my son's contract due to the fact that I signed up in September and specified he would only be using the Point Club. I found this dishonest that they sold me a contract and I had to pay an activation fee with full knowledge of what was about to be sent to members 6 weeks later.
Now, initially you reached out to Virgin Active's media and communications team to respond. What did they say when you put this case to them, Wendy?
Okay. The response was that Jenna's 2 children's existing membership terms would remain unchanged until the Point facility officially opened. While renovations continue, I was told everything carries on as is. Once Point reopens, access will only be possible through the new founder membership or by taking out a new membership. If those children do not take up this offer, unfortunately, they will not be able to use the Point. Now that the special founding members offer has lapsed, the rates for standard membership are going to be adjusted to 2,250 Rand a month or 3,000 Rand a month, depending on contract type.
Okay, so they obviously didn't take up the founder membership option.
No, they just cancelled.
So they cancelled, and she had to really, really fight to not pay the cancellation fee.
But that's what you're looking at as a fee hike.
Okay, so and I think that's an important figure to cite, because that is the context here, that from a point of 420 Rand a month, a couple of months later, you're now looking at potentially 3,000 Rand a month. It's a substantial
Bearing
increase.
in mind, as we said, that there was the founding offer, which was
a little
1.8
less than that. Okay, and just to emphasize again, the reason for that is the substantial change in the facilities. The extras now are the luxury spa and the hot yoga studio and a sound bath and pool and paddle court,
swim academy,
etc. Yes. There's a lot of extra bells and whistles,
which would have cost them millions. Let's put that on the table.
So we understand
obviously
why there is a cost increase, but not everybody wanted all of those facilities. And Wendy, this brings us to our second case study. Lynn, she was also a member. She's a senior. She signed up with the Point in 2024, and in her case, it was mainly because she wanted to do the aqua aerobics classes. Her comment to us was, the communication about the upgrade of Point to a collection club was appalling. I heard about it by word of mouth and a WhatsApp chat group, and then eventually via a bulk SMS. This is a poor way to communicate significant changes to your members and the resultant impact on fees. And even if she was able to and or prepared to pay the new rates, Wendy, in Lynn's case, she'd lost access to the very thing that she was wanting to use at that gym.
Yeah, she says the Point has discontinued the aqua classes, and they aren't offered at the next closest gym, the Silo, either. She says she would now have to travel to the Wembley Square Club to attend one. As a reasonable accommodation for her inconvenience, could Foreshore not consider including 2 aqua classes a week in their timetable as an ongoing fixture? And could Virgin Active Point not implement an affordable pro rata access system based only on what members use in the club? Or alternatively, said Lynn, offer senior members, non-founder, more favourable rates. In other words, not just for the year, but going forward. As an ongoing.
Okay.
Yes.
So how did the media team respond to that proposal?
It went like this. We understand Lynn's disappointment regarding both the perceived communication gaps and the changes to aqua class availability. There seems to be a miscommunication regarding the classes at Wembley and Foreshore ending. They will remain in place at least until Point reopens, which is pretty much done. We confirm Point will offer aqua classes once it reopens. Thereafter, we might continue offering at all 3 clubs or elect to rationalise depending on demand. But here's the thing that affects Lynn and others like her. Requests for pro rata access or differentiated senior pricing about that, Virgin Active memberships are not structured on a pay-per-use or pro-rata access basis. Membership pricing reflects access to the full club offering rather than individual services or components, and this approach is applied consistently across our network.
I kind of feel that's fair, Wendy, because to try and police who's allowed to use which particular sections inside a gym on a case-by-case basis would be a very, very difficult thing
I get that too.
to manage. I understand that. I do agree with Lynn. It would be nice to have seen a gesture of a senior rate at a discounted level, but okay, point taken. And then let's just look at one more case study who's actually with us on the line to chat about it before we then bring in the COO of the gym group. And this is Hein, who has also been a member of the Point for many years. And he wrote to us as follows. In his case, it looks like the standard membership fee is going to increase from 1,450 Rand a month to that 2,250 you quoted from the end of January. So we're just a week or two away from this. That is a 55% increase, he says. Even as I am using the Vitality benefit, which gives you a discounted rate, this is the impact on Hein's family's access. They were paying 375 Rand each for 4 people. So this is with Vitality, a combined rate of 1,500 Rand a month. This will now go up to 4 times 1,125 Rand, so 4.5. So from 1.5 to 4,500 Rand a month.
Difference.
A very, very big difference. And he said the offer to move our membership to either the Wembley Club in Gardens or the Foreshore is totally impractical due to traffic. So that was Hein's perspective. And in fact, Hein is with us on the line. So let me bring him in quickly. And Hein, thanks for being willing to chat to us today. You feel quite strongly that this represents a sort of a failure to be loyal to the existing members of the club, don't you?
Well, yes, I think it maybe could have been implemented slightly differently. One of the biggest traps that I see for existing members is also that whatever option you choose, existing members must now sign a brand new 12-month contract, even though we are in contract already. So even with this new special founders offer, that's for my family, that's a 83,000 Rand contract.
And I think that's a very good point
sign.
Because you have a contract.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And it irks me that we're in contract and a fee increase in this magnitude to be imposed on contracts that are already binding. If they introduce new contracts or different types of contracts, that it might have made sense. But I think the other issue, just in terms of whether maybe a strategic mistake, is to bundle all these new services into one single membership option. Us as a family, we don't want a swimming academy. We just want a pool. I don't want a hot-cold therapy suite and contrast zones. I don't want specialist-led health suites. I don't want a sound bath. I don't want private workspaces, meeting rooms, and elevated social areas. I don't want international reciprocity. So, I would just think many members might only use 2 or 3 facilities regularly. And so basically, they want us to pay for all this great stuff, which they're building, and I'm sure it's going to be very nice, which many of us, won't ever use. And I think for some of those, they might even charge additional fees anyway. So, and then to add insult to injury, like your previous example, I signed up my daughter in the tent while they were building for a contract. And literally, 3 months before they announced the new pricing. And the fight I had to go through to try and get to not play a penalty. I mean, they full well knew that they were going to sell new contracts.
So
I had to go through a hell of a fight to get someone to agree that it's totally unfair. So, we've cancelled all 4 contracts eventually. I'm joining another lovely local gym and tennis club at a fraction of the price. And I think they're clearly trying to get rid of local members and families, hoping that, foreign visitors that are used to paying these sort of prices are gonna bite. So it's quite a brave move.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, Hein, at the time you signed up your daughter in the so-called tent, was there any suggestion? I mean, it would have been obvious because you were in a tent. How did they explain what was happening, and was there any discussion around the impact on fees?
Not at all. They just sold this beautiful new club that they're building. I mean, we've been playing tennis on terrible tennis courts for about 3 years, with the promise of future revamps. And we were gymming in a tent for 6 or 8 months. with this promise of the new club coming up. So it was totally, the expectation was definitely set that, hang on, members, we are going to bring you something nice. That's why we can't revamp tennis courts for 3 years, because we're waiting for the new full revamp.
Yeah. And then nothing about the cost implications and the impact on your contract and all the rest. Okay.
So, Hein, just to clarify, you said you had a heck of a fight to cancel your daughter's contract without a penalty, but in the end, were you able to get that right? You were allowed to cancel without paying the 40%, is that correct?
I was. I'll probably have to write off the activation fees for both of those. I don't think I've got the energy to pick up a fight for those again. But yes, we'll see if it comes out. The debit order is about to go off, I think, 1st of Feb. So we'll see if it's implemented. But I've got that in writing, yes.
Okay, that's a good start, and that's an interesting precedent that we'll call on. Hein, thank you very much for chatting to us today. Let me just share a couple of comments coming in from other listeners on the WhatsApp line. David, very concerned because he says the Virgin Active in Constantia is due for a similar upgrade this year. Are our fees going to go up by the same rate? Well, David, we'll ask Virgin Active after the break. Hippo wants to know their response to his comment that contract law has been broken. Please justify, is his response. And then Milan saying sending members over to Wembley Square instead is not ideal. Wembley is already grossly oversubscribed. It's a nightmare to train due to this at the moment. What is being done to deal with the oversubscription at that club is Mel's question. Thank you for the questions streaming in on our WhatsApp line. For anybody just coming in midway to this conversation, Wendy Knowler with us in studio for Consumer Talk today. And before the break, we heard 3 different case studies from listeners, all raising different aspects of issues around the upgrade of the Virgin Active Point Club in Greenpoint, just down the road from our studios, and the attendant cost increases and contractual implications thereof. Now, listening into all of that, and with great patience, thank you very much for staying with us and hearing all of that, was Virgin Active's Chief Operating Officer, Derek du Preez. Derek, thank you for joining us and being willing to chat to us this afternoon, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, ladies, and thank you for having me.
Can we start with the thing that for me stands out as the biggest issue here? Because, Derek, you have the right to upgrade your club, and we can maybe chat a little bit later about the thinking behind that, and you have a right to charge a premium rate for premium customers. What bothers me is that customers who signed up in good faith for a particular offering on a price point that they committed to, not being given the option of exiting without paying cancellation fees. The upgrade is providing some very exciting new facilities, and for those who want them, that will be lovely for them to pay, and if they're happy to pay for them, to access them. But nobody is saying they should be allowed, that everyone must be allowed to use those new facilities at the old rate in perpetuity. But to me, there's a sense of unfairness in saying to customers, we're not giving you a choice to exit without penalty if you don't want to pay those fees. How do you justify the decision to enforce a cancellation clause on customers who in some cases can't afford those new fees?
Yeah, I think there's unfortunately, looks like there's a little bit of miscommunication with that. There's definitely no cancellation. We've given our members 3 different options there. We've given the member the option to either take up the founder member, and I'll talk a little bit later about why founder membership, or to transfer to any of the clubs here, Foreshore and Wembley are probably the 2 closest to the members. Or thirdly, if a member really don't like what we've done, which we think they will, but if they don't want that, they can cancel, and we won't take up the contractual. There's no waiver of, we will waiver the contractual fee there.
That's okay. Well, that clearly hasn't been communicated to the listeners who have contacted us, as you heard before the break, Derek. But on the option 2, transfer to another club, our listener Mark has just messaged to say, well, I went for that option, but I've been charged for the grace of moving to another club, a moving fee of 250 Rand, which I'm trying to dispute, but all of my emails are going unanswered. His comment is, I've been a member of the Point since its health and racket days, but because of the huge price increase, I decided not to take up the founder's offer. They offered me to choose a new home club, and I chose Wembley, which has been great so far, but I've been charged a moving fee of 250 Rand. Would you like to respond to that?
Actually, that's not right. If we did that, I'd like to get the detail of that person to see it. If we can just exchange that, it's not a fee that we're charging.
Okay, and then to the Derek, to the question of existing members with existing contracts signed in good faith not too long ago, being told you will now have to sign a new contract, be it the founding offer or the more expensive one from the end of January. How is that justified? Because funnily enough, I took up this issue with the Ombudsman for Consumer Goods and Services, Lisa Brati, not about the gym, funnily enough, but about, I've got a lot of people up in arms about cell phone companies increasing their fees mid-contract. And he's given me an answer, and one of the things he says, he sums up and he says price increases are permitted under the CPA, and he's referring here to fixed-term contracts, only if they are transparent, justified, notified in advance, and accompanied by a genuine right for the consumer to terminate. And I think he means, I've gone back to query it, but I think he means without penalty. So a couple of the people who came to us said they signed new contracts very recently, 6 weeks in Jenna's case. I'm quite sure how long ago, but certainly in the tent situation. And there was absolutely no indication of pricing impact at all. So do you feel as Virgin Active that you have conducted yourselves fairly and legally with regard to those contractual issues?
I think you want to be able to give your consumer options, and I think we are doing that. We are giving our members 3 different options in there. And like I said, now there is no waiver fee if you signed up during the time that you joined at the tent. I think you would have seen what we're busy doing. You would have seen the displays, the digital displays, all the various things that we've done. But if you end up saying, look, I was happy to pay 1,500 rand to train in the temporary facility, but I'm not prepared to pay 1,750 for what you're giving me into the future, then we'll just cancel that for you without charging you any fee whatsoever. When you look at the comparison between those two, I think you're going to stick with what we have, but let's talk contractual first. The option would be that for us, preference is take the move from the 1.5 to the 1.750 with your discovery discount. Obviously, you get a discount against that pricing. Alternatively, move to any of those 2 clubs without a transfer fee and go to that club-specific rate. And if, in our case, if he paid 1,500, he would pay less at Foreshore and probably the same price at Wembley. And thirdly, if you really don't like it and you want to cancel, then let's do that for you without a fee. But I think we are confident that we would, just looking at the massive positive response that we've received so far from the base converting onto the founder member rate, that we'll have a substantial number of members opting for that option.
Okay, that's interesting. We'll come back to you in a little while and see how that panned out when all the dust has settled.
Derek, several listeners listening to the fee increases quantified in our previous case studies are worried about what is going to happen at their gyms. We've heard from members at both Constantia and Tiger Valley saying we're aware of upgrades happening at our gyms. Are equivalent increases to be expected at our 2 branches? If you could please respond to Constantia and to Tiger Valley.
Yeah, maybe take a step back and just talk about the lease agreement, which I think before you make any substantial investment into any facility, you want to make sure that you've got a secure lease in place. And those 2 leases are also with City Council. You would know, I think that 2 years ago, so we renegotiated lease with City Council for the point, and everything kickstarted the rest of the developments. We are in the process with both Tiger Valley and Constantia, and that would be based on each of those clubs specifically. I think Constantia lends itself to a similar country club feel, but we don't have any approved plans for that club specifically. And Tiger Valley, we've just recently spent probably 5 million rand on as an investment in there, but we won't be doing that until we have any further development until we have a long-term lease secured there.
Okay.
We are in conversation with Derek du Preez, Chief Operating Officer of Virgin Active. And if you would like to ask a question while he is on the line, responding specifically on the issue of the upgrade to the country club gyms, I'm going to just try and keep us focused on that key salient point today. Teresa is raising an issue that quite a few people have raised. So let's go there next. She says, can your guest please ask why they are upgrading clubs like the Point and Constantia? Have they asked the members? Have they done? I think the bigger question that's being asked is what kind of research has been conducted with existing members and potential future members, whoever they may be, that is guiding this process. Do you want to chat to us, Derek, a little bit about the kind of market research that has gone into pinpointing the clubs that you're upgrading to this degree?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a great question, actually. When you look at at wellness as a global movement, consumers are spending a lot of money on holistic wellness. I think there's a move towards holistic wellness, healthy eating, better balance between work and home, a search for longevity and better quality of life. When you start looking at, so it's not just the gym industry, but the bigger industry, it's definitely moving towards that. We're seeing that on consumers in their 20s all the way up to their 70s, really putting a lot more emphasis on that. So as part of Virgin Active strategy, we started 2 years ago to move our health clubs into social wellness clubs. We could see people want that second space. We could see they're spending more time inside our facilities, not necessarily to train, but to train and to eat and to meet people and to do business meetings. And there's a huge demand for that. Where we've done that in our clubs, we've seen significant improvements and uptake from the clientele.
Okay, so the modern country club, hence the terminology.
Yeah, I think for Point specifically, what we've had is, Greenpoint is synonymous with exercise. If you go into Sea Point and Greenpoint, there are so many boutiques and smaller operators in there. And we've been the beacon there. We've been fortunate enough to have the Virgin Active logo on the Point for the last 25 years of it. So it's probably been there for 35 years already. So we've been fortunate. We've made substantial investments into that facility over the 25 years. But people in that community do like to train. And it's important for us to make sure that we keep setting the bar as high as possible, and we look at what the demand is for the consumer specifically.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question. It's come up in a lot of the responses that I've had so far from Virgin Active, because you keep saying to members, well, you have other alternatives. You can go to Wembley and Gardens, you can go to the foreshore, where the club rates are currently less than those paid in 2025 by Point members. And the point that the members are making is that there may only be 3 to 5 kilometres from the Point, but as anyone who has lived in central Cape Town, and I include myself, will know, the traffic congestion and resultant travelling time, especially at peak times, makes that a very impractical, unworkable alternative for many who chose to sign up at the Point, specifically because of its location. Would there not have been a case, all things considered? So I hear you, I was under the impression before we did this interview that the cancellation fees still applied. But for those who signed up recently, especially just a 12-month contract, say 6-8 weeks ago, would there not have been a case as a PR exercise to let them ride out the contract on the existing fee structure, whatever they were committed to for the month, until those contracts expired? And if they chose not then to take up the new offer, then that's it. I mean, how do you justify, all things considered, them being forced to make this decision midway through their contracts? I still have I'm not comfortable with the legality of that, actually, in terms of the Consumer Protection Act.
Okay, so maybe to start off with, I live in Sea Point, so I understand the commute. I understand that the distance between Point and Wembley or foreshore. I do that commute every day. I understand what that looks like. In the last 7 months since we've opened up reciprocal access, we've seen a really healthy portion of members training both at Wembley and at foreshore. probably 50-50 between training there and training at the temporary facility. So we've seen it, and yes, it's necessitated, but I think what we found, and hence us adding more Group X classes, aqua classes, and the likes, opening foreshore for an extra day, and extending its operating hours. We've seen people change based on what they want to do. So I think you might have a change in your routine, but again, I want to come back to just re-emphasize to you that I think if you look at what you paid 1,500 rands for in January last year to what you're going to pay 1,750 for in February this year, is going to be two completely different propositions. Just maybe something that you mentioned earlier about I'm just coming for the aqua. I hear that, but I don't necessarily agree with that comment. I think what tend to happen is we believe that, I only use that part of the facility, and Hein was mentioning it a little bit earlier as well. But the thing of a gym contract or a bundled service like Virgin Active is you're putting all of these facilities under one roof, and everybody benefits for that. If I look at Reformer Pilates studios in Seapoint, you'll pay anything from 600 Rand a session through to 2,500 Rand per month if you do 8 sessions. If I look at something like sauna and ice baths, is recently opened one on the promenade, you'll pay 250 Rand per session, or 2,000 Rand if you want to do that monthly. So when you start adding these, or you unbundle these propositions, you start seeing what the real value of the proposition is. So when you then look at, if you look at gym only, there's a couple of them in that area where you'll pay a minimum of 1,000 Rand a month. So when you start unbundling what we offer, you start seeing the real value of what a Virgin Active can offer you. So I think we're always going to look at all of those components, and even if you're going just for the aqua class, in my mind, you're coming for the aqua class, but you're also coming for the idea and the comfort of knowing that all your staff in Virgin Active is CPR trained, the temperature is regulated, the cleaning is better than what you can find, the coffee is as good as it can get, and there's a community in place. So all of those components together give you Virgin Active. It's not just I come for the aqua class in that club.
Derek, a question from Liz, which I think is an important one, given the number of people who are voicing concern about upgrades at other clubs and the potential for fee increases that come with this. Liz's comment is, I am a Virgin Active member. How is Virgin going to deal with the oversubscription of the non-upgraded clubs? Her point being, there's already congestion due to the point upgrade at the local clubs like Wembley. We could see that replicated in other areas where this kind of shift is happening, so that people are moved. Those who don't want to pay the luxe version, if we can call it that, are moving to the non-upgraded clubs. What are you doing to manage potential oversubscription in those clubs?
That's a good question. It's in our world, it's often a good problem to have, and that puts us under pressure to make sure we've got good sites available and new sites coming on board. I think Cape Town in recent years have benefited from immigration substantially, and therefore new club openings and developments within Cape Town is a high priority for us. We've got a couple of clubs that will come on board in 2027. We couldn't open one this year, but there's quite a few opportunities that we have that will come online that will support that and make it more convenient for members. Where we have existing clubs, we are also looking at additional space within those facilities. So Wembley, for example, we are looking for additional space. Can we extend that? Can we make it bigger? We do have ratios that we work towards, and we do have 1 hour peak ratios that we look at as well. So how many people do we get in a specific time? Can we add more studios? That helps us to move more people around there. So it is an active exercise that we do constantly, I think more so in Cape Town and surrounds than the rest of the country.
I think we've got time to squeeze in a voice note that's come in from somebody on the subject of what happens in the future to those founder member fees. Let's take a listen.
Hi, Pippa. I'm fascinated to listen to Derek de Preer talking about Virgin Active's increase. He keeps saying the jump from 1,500 to 1,750. But he fails to mention that that's only for a year too. So after a year, that also jumps to 2,250. And then the jump from 1,500 to 2,250 becomes material. And that's also to say if there were no increases to the 2,250 in the meantime either. So I think he is maybe omitting a couple of very pivotal details. This is
Louis, thank you for that. And to add to that, several people flagging that the contracts do allow the contractor to change the fee mid-contract. That's not something that the user is allowed to do. And as Sheila says, I dislike intensely that I may not change the terms of a contract, but the company may. I know it's in the contract, but it shouldn't be. Firstly, Derek, can we get a view from you? Those people who signed up to that founder member contract at the point, are they absolutely guaranteed that that price is not going to change during the term of that contract?
No.
At the moment, can I answer that in twofold? So firstly, on what's the price now and what the price will be in a year's time, I can't give you that answer just yet. I think what you look at as any business, you look at what is reasonable, what is the CPI increase, what is the economy doing in the country. You look at those components. You look at your fixed cost. We all know what electricity does in terms of increase every year, and electricity cost or utilities, staff and rent are the three main reasons that drives any increases in our line of industry. So the price increase, you look at what is reasonable and you do that every year. So I don't know what the price would be after the 1,750 for the 12 months, but we're giving members the 1,750 for 12 months.
Derek, you didn't answer my question earlier, which was about people signing a contract for 12 months, 24 months, whatever, at a certain rate, and then this new improvement happening, and that was not of their choice. As a PR exercise, wouldn't it have been appropriate, all things considered, for you to just let those contracts run out at the lower rate and let them decide at the end of those contracts, which is what they committed to, which they had an expectation to be, for the fee not to change, and then let them decide if they want to continue at the higher rate? Was that not something that you would have considered?
I think people have that option right now to consider what that looks like. I think I'm not sure if it's a PR or maybe you're referencing something like a loyalty, that people have been loyal to you. Why are you not giving them a longer term?
Well, more than that, it's a legal contract they signed. They're going to be paying whatever, 700 Rand a month for 12 months or 24 months. And given the upheaval that they've been subjected to, why not just let those contracts run out rather than forcing them to sign a new one, which wasn't envisaged or spoken about, certainly not in terms of fees, when they signed up?
I hear you. I think and that's why we're giving the members the options to choose an alternative. If you want to go for an alternative, I think the proposition has changed completely, and therefore we want to give the members the three different options.
So they've got to move to another gym if they want to stay paying the same.
We have to wrap there, I'm afraid. Derek du Preez, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Chief Operating Officer of Virgin Active. And to the listeners, thank you very much for getting so actively involved in the conversation. I think the main thing I just want to flag at the end of that interview is for the many listeners who were contacting us, telling us that you were being told you had to pay a 40% cancellation fee to not have to take on the expense of new membership. That is incorrect. You've heard it from the COO. No cancellation fees will be charged. If you decide that the new fee being asked of you at the point is too high, you have the right to cancel and exit the existing contract you have without paying a cancellation fee. The last word to Wendy.
And no moving fee if you choose to move to another club.
No moving fee if you choose to move. And Mark, thank you. Your email received, and we've heard him say on air, you will not be charged that fee. We will sort it out for you. Thank you so much, Wendy Knowler and Derek du Preez of Virgin Active.